I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. I'm not letting go of the CV19 bioweapon vax thing that they still in the Trump administration with RFK Jr. won't recall it. They won't recall it. They know it's bad. They know it's caused death. You can't be. This is too stupid to be stupid. I'm going to talk to my next brand new guest, but I'll give you a couple of headlights to news peg him in here. And here we have this RFK Jr. So they know it's bad. RFK Jr. says COVID-19 shot will no longer be recommended for healthy children and pregnant women. Of course, he's the head of the Health and Human Services. This is widely reported. Here's another one. They've got a new shot out, which I don't understand why all these shots aren't off the market, but they've got a new one. And it says here, who can get the updated COVID vaccines this fall? FDA tightening the rules. This is CBS, and I put in their fake news that CBS wouldn't talk about the millions of people who died from this COVID shot and the millions more that are permanently disabled, according to Ed Dowd, and the many millions more are vaccine injured. Well, the guy that's been working to try to remove these shots and tirelessly, he's got multiple fronts, is Dr. Joe Sansone. He is a psychotherapist and he is a warrior for the shots. He's on camera now. Joe Sansone, thank you so much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Greg, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Your platform, being able to talk to people about what I've been doing, because it is really important.
Well,
so thank you for having me.
They're making out like RFK Jr. with this headline: the COVID-19 shot will no longer be recommended for healthy children. Like if you give this shot to a sick child, you'll kill him. The head of the CDC, Walensky, was telling pregnant women, go ahead and get the shots. And in Congress, they had one of the doctors say 82% had some kind of a problem with their pregnancy, or they basically miscarriage the baby. I mean, this is murder. But tell me about what's up with why do you think that, because they know this is a problem? Are they afraid of the big outpouring of people that'll be mad as hell that say, well, you gave us a shot that would give us myocarditis? That's another thing. Oh, they underrepresented the risk of myocarditis and pericarditis and cancer and everything else. Why are they dragging their feet on not recalling this and this piecemeal crap from RFK Jr. at HHS? Why? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it comes down to, with politicians, one of three things: cowards, corrupt, or out of touch. The bottom line is you can't be America first and look the other way while biological warfare is being carried out against American citizens. It's really that simple. President Trump should issue an executive order immediately stopping these shots. They violate 18 U.S.C. 175, Chapter 10, biological weapons. Why do I know that? I have an affidavit right here from Dr. Francis Boyle, the law professor that wrote the 1989 Biological Weapons and Anti-Terrorism Act, stating so. And I'm using his affidavit in my case in Florida to get the shots off the market. Greg, these shots are associated with a 1,236% increase in cardiac arrest deaths, 112,000% increase in brain strokes when you compare it to the regular flu shots. We've seen birth rates are going down, infant mortality is going up. Lifespans are shortened as much as 37%, which means like a kid getting the shot would be lucky to live into their 50s. So they're truncating, they're shortening lifespans and reducing birth rates and increasing infant mortality. You do not need to be a medical doctor or a scientist or a rocket scientist to figure out that if you're giving a bunch of people chronic diseases and illnesses, you are shortening their lifespans. The sad reality is, for those of you listening and watching right now, most people will likely have a shortened lifespan as a result of these shots.
If they've had the shots, they will have a shortened lifespan. You're saying, I'm back on camera with you. You're saying that they are going to have a shortened lifespan, period, the end. That's what the science says.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to frighten people. Look, I have type 1 diabetes. The average lifespan for someone with type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease, is 15 years less than everybody else. I probably got about 2 or 3 hours left. I'll try to beat the odds. But the reality is that if you're giving somebody a chronic disease or an illness, whether these create neurological problems, autoimmune disorders, we obviously know they're causing cancers, heart problems, and so on. If you're giving people chronic illnesses and diseases, you are shortening their lifespans.
So you think Are they? One of the things that hit me, and just I was just talking here. I want to talk about your bill in front of the Minnesota legislature. I want to talk about your court battles in Florida. I want to talk about how you got some of the counties in Florida to basically do a moratorium on the shots. But is it because they're afraid? They can't just be getting paid. I mean, Donald Trump's a multi-billionaire. I mean, they can't be that. Are they afraid of the outpouring of anger? Because, a lot of the left, and there's plenty of people on the right. I know a lot of people on the right that got the shots, and I was like, why? And so, but are they afraid of this outpouring from Antifa? Antifa was near 100%, by the way, that got the shot. And Black Lives Matter people and all these liberal left, because they didn't want to be anti-vaxxers. Yeah, are they afraid of violence coming when they figure out, wow, you basically destroyed us? Are they afraid of that?
I think that they're probably maybe more afraid of their masters than they are of us. And I think they need to be more afraid of us than their masters.
Wow.
It's just a
Who are their
reality.
matters? Who are their masters? It's not just big pharma. Who the heck is running
Well,
it?
let me put it to you this way, Greg. If you get together 10 or 12 friends and you're out, say you're sitting out and you're having a few drinks or whatever, hanging out, and you start discussing any topic, and let's say you all have similar political backgrounds, similar cultural backgrounds, and so on, you're going to debate the nuances of almost anything you're discussing. How did the whole world follow the same stupid, unscientific protocols? Whether it's the death protocols in the hospitals with the remdesivirs, the lockdowns, denying early treatment, the whole thing, the masking, that was the deliberate act to humiliate you. It was very sadistic. It was, but I mean, that didn't just happen. Do you really think the whole world just did the same stupid thing? No, I don't.
Orchestrated. You think it was
Had to. It
orchestrated
had
from
to.
top to bottom, orchestrated?
Yeah, look, Greg, I personally think this is part of a broad depopulation campaign. I judge the tree by its fruit. So again, if you're lowering birth rates and reducing lifespans, we're depopulating. In their twisted minds, and I don't know that I'm not saying President Trump is trying to depopulate or RFK Jr., but the people who are behind the scenes orchestrating this. There's probably some people think President Trump just won't do it because he doesn't want to admit he was wrong. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's not a good answer either.
Well, some people, I just heard there's more. I mean, the data just keeps piling out, which is amazing that you still have to take your fight to state legislatures to get them to, and we'll get to that in just a second, to get
Yeah.
them to stop these damn shots when it can be done with a stroke of a pen from Trump or HHS Secretary RFK Jr. This is embarrassing. But
Or any state governor or attorney general or county sheriff or prosecutor. Anybody can enforce the law.
it's that simple.
It is that simple.
Boy, it just to me seems to me that this is it's something's much bigger going on here. It just seems to me that something much bigger is going on. That like you said, it's a attempt to depopulate. But they also had that new data that's coming out about how these shots basically mimicked or imitated, the morning after pill. The pill that gives you an abortion. That these things did that as well.
Well, we see the lower birth rates and the increased infant mortality, but people need to keep in mind the Florida Department of Health has officially said that these shots are unsafe for humans and a threat to the human genome. And so in the state of Florida, they have come out, but they're still on the market, which is why I'm litigating here in Florida to try to get the shots off the market. But these, and what I mean by that is, we through the reverse transcription in your DNA, it gets into the testes and the ovaries. We don't know what's going to happen in 1, 3, or 5 generations down the road with the mutations. And there is something bigger going on. If you really want to understand it, go back to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and read the first 4 chapters. These people are sick, twisted transhumanists, and they're experimenting on us and depopulating at the same time, making a lot of money in the process. And they're going to try to genetically engineer. I don't know if they're planning to genetically engineer us like in that book. But we know there's a transhumanist agenda going on here too, and trying to create this overall technocracy. And I think these shots play right into that. And if you have a sicker, weaker population, it's a lot easier to control that population.
Well, we just dodged a bullet with Trump. People are like, oh, he must be, and I don't, I like Donald Trump. I voted for him. I think he should
I
step
did
in.
too.
He should step in and stop these shots. But I just had Alex Newman on saying, "Wow, he got us out of the WHO, the Paris Climate Accord. He got us out of a bunch of stuff. You cannot understate the importance of what he got us out of. They just have a global WHO pandemic treaty, which the United States us are not involved in." And they want to mandate, not mandate, but force vaccinations. Same thing in Canada. That Carney, the new PM up there, is basically jumping in with both feet that they can force you to be vaccinated.
Look, I literally wrote an article saying I'm voting for Donald Trump because the other side's going to kill us more quickly. And so, yeah, things will be a lot worse with Kamala Harris. Now, I was told that the head of state needs to send a letter to WHO, and Trump didn't do that. He had Rubio do that. So are we really out of it? I'm not sure. But there's no doubt I think we'd be in a worse place with Kamala Harris in there. But I think people on our side, so to speak, need to keep the heat up, because when you put your people in there, you don't just sit back. No, you put pressure on them to get them to do your will. We put them in there to do our will, not to cheer them on. And the reality is the people you know and love have been targeted with biological and technological weapons of mass destruction. And let me just address the phony choice argument when it's coming with these shots. Saying that someone has a choice in getting these shots is like saying you have a right to drink coffee that nobody told you was laced with cyanide, and the guy standing next to you can get sick and die from the smell, the shedding. So there's no choice here, unless you labeled it biological and technological weapon of mass destruction. Take at your own risk. You probably get sick or
Well, that's a
worse.
very good point. That is a really good point. The shedding, and that you cannot underscore. I know a lot of people. I didn't get the shots. I'm okay. No, you're not. Are you around people who got the shots? Yeah, you touching them? Are you hugging them? I know husband and wives. One of them got it. One of them didn't. Well, they both got it. I mean, it's pretty.
Well, Greg, I actually did the shedding in my case here in Florida, which you want me to, I don't know if you want me to get into that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I filed that on December 1st of 2024. It's actually my second case. I did a writ of mandamus last year. In this case, I filed the complaint seeking an injunction to prohibit the governor and attorney general from allowing the continued distribution of shots because they are biological and technological weapons, violating Florida Statute 790.166. And so I have 9 affidavits in my case too, by the way, including Dr. Francis Boyles, medical doctors, Karen Kingston, Dr. Mahalchia, Dr. Brinkley, Dr. Zivzits, Dr. Rima Leba, even Dr. Paul Alexander, who's a senior advisor at Health and Human Services under the first Trump administration, and even Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Ben Marble. So anyway, I got 9 expert affidavits. The only reason I don't have more is because the judge dismissed my case 6 business days later on December 9th. And so I filed my appeal. I'm in the appellate court. And
Wow.
so we'll see what happens.
This is in Florida.
This is in Florida. I'm in the
Okay.
First District Court of Appeal. And what happened was the governor and the attorney general, through their attorney, filed a notice on February 18th that they're not going to be filing any type of answer brief in the appellate court because they're claiming the court has no jurisdiction over them, because when they were served their initial complaint, they were not served a summons. However, that was not my mistake. What happened was the court dismissed the case before I even got a summons from the clerk of the court, which violates the rules. And ironically, the next day on February 19th, the case came out of the First District Court of Appeal, where part of the decision was basically saying that you can't dismiss a case before notice is served. So literally, I kind of have them on a technicality. I mean, I don't know what the court's going to do. I can't say what they're going to do, but basically, I mean, there's 8 reasons why I'm appealing, but that one reason right there is a pretty clear procedural error that I feel works in my favor. So the First District Court of Appeal would actually have to rule against a decision they made 3 months ago.
You're just a private citizen. You're not a lawyer. You're
No.
a psychotherapist, PhD. You just hate what's going on. You have to do this. Can you imagine? I can't believe my ears that you have to do this, and the courts are dragging their feet on something that's obviously a bioweapon. Tell me about your legislation up in Minnesota. It's groundbreaking legislation, and you want more of it all across the country. Go for it.
Yeah, so I call it the Sansone mRNA Bioweapons Prohibition Act. It is groundbreaking, and the reason it's groundbreaking is because it's the only piece of legislation that is seeking to prohibit the shots because they're already illegal according to existing state bioweapons or weapons of mass destruction laws. And what I also do in there is I remove prosecutorial discretion. So in other words, if you're anywhere from a governor to the sheriff, prosecutor, whoever, if you're presented evidence and you don't follow up on it, you could be literally be prosecuted as if you violated the crime itself. Now I get it. The prosecutor might not want to, prosecute his brother-in-law, the sheriff. So what I did is I put a backstop of a civil liability there so that you can sue if they don't enforce the law. And this bill, I reached out through Dr. Andrew Zivzets, who's one of the doctors that gave me an affidavit saying it's a bioweapon. I reached out to him because he had an anti-gender mutilation bill that was introduced in Minnesota for minors. And I said, I'm like, hey, Andrew, you think I can get my bill introduced there? Because I put a template out there. And he's like, yeah, Shane Meckland, he's a representative. He's like us. He's awake. So I called up Representative Shane Meckland in Minnesota. And basically, I explained to him what my bill was. And he just put in a bill like calling to remove the shots. But part of what was going on here is I was getting annoyed watching these attempts with legislation to get rid of the shots because they're already illegal. Like somebody should just enforce the law. So I'm like, if you're going to have a law, just have a law recognizing that they're already illegal. And that's what mine does. When I explained to him what my bill does, he's like, yeah, that's better. We'll leave the other one sitting there. And so I didn't have to convince him. He was on it and he introduced it. He actually has, there's a total of 7 co-sponsors in the Minnesota House and 5 co-sponsors in the Senate, which is the max that you're allowed. But so right now in these United States, there's only one state representative that's introduced a bill recognizing that these are bioweapons. So I got to give a shout out to Shane because he's a patriot. And what I'm looking to do here, I have on my Substack there, which is josephsansone.substack.com. I have a post that says, I'm going to war. Will you join me? And I have listed there a federal version too, but I've listed there all 50 state versions of this bill adapted to each state's laws, so that you can reach out to your local legislators and try to get this introduced. Now, I have people working in various states doing it. Now, just so you understand, Greg, a lot of states are like Florida. We have a part-time legislature, so we have to wait till next year. So I have to wait to the fall to get it introduced here. There's about 9 or 10 states that have full-time legislatures, and so that's where I'm kind of focusing, trying to get people to introduce it. Now, most of these lean left, blue states, but that's okay. I want to get this is a 50-state strategy.
Don't they hate bioweapons too? Don't they hate getting stuck with bioweapons? Isn't that a unifying thing? Hey, y'all, would you like not to be stuck with a bioweapon? I mean, won't you get on board with us to stop this for everybody?
Yeah, it should be. But like early on, I realized that mandates was a psyop because there's an embedded hypnotic command in there that it's okay to give people bioweapons. Like if we're debating, whether we should mandate a bioweapon or not, the indirect suggestion is that it's okay to hit you with a bioweapon. So what I want to do is I do constant offense. So I want this introduced in California. I want this introduced in New York and Pennsylvania. I reached out to Senator Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania's office. Still haven't heard back from him. Hopefully they'll introduce it. I want to poke them in the eye. I want to go on the offense in their territory so that what happens is by the time we get to the fall, the red state Republicans will be so embarrassed and so ashamed that they'll introduce it in their states. Because I already have people saying, why didn't we do this here once they heard about Minnesota? And look, if these shots are still on the market, I want the 2026 midterms to be about whether you support this bill or continued biological warfare against American citizens. Because I'm going to say it one more time.
2026 midterms.
2026, you're correct. I'm going to say it one more time. You cannot be America first and look the other way while biological warfare is being carried out against American citizens. Just can't happen. That's not America first. And so I'm asking people to step up, pressure your state legislators to introduce this bill.
Has your bill passed in? I'm on camera back with you on your cam again. Has your bill passed in Minnesota?
No, it was introduced. Now they have like the 2-year cycle, so it might not actually get voted on until 2026. But I'm actually kind of impressed that it has 7 co-sponsors in the House and 5 in the Senate. Now, keep in mind, their governor there is that loony guy that was the VP, Walt. So, it'll be a tough uphill battle there. But a lot's going to change in the next year as more keeps coming out about these shots.
Does Walt want his little girl injected with a bioweapon? Does he really want that?
I don't know.
You can't be this stupid.
I don't get it because you're right. Democrats are dying too. And by the way, if you can get Democrats to introduce this, go for it. Or if you can get Democrats to co-sponsor it, go for it. Because you're right. This should be something that unifies us. This is about our species. Again, the Florida Department of Health and official bulletins has said this is a threat to the human genome. That means it's a potential threat to our species. We don't know what they did to us. And again, the shedding is real. That's documented. So, each time someone gets these shots, which are still on the market, you're at the risk of shedding. Now, I'm not saying you need to be paranoid or that type of thing, but some people are more sensitive to it. And I know of many situations that doctors have told me about, even people I know, where like if you're unvaccinated and your girlfriend or spouse got the shot, next thing you know, you're going to the hospital with a heart issue. So it is a real issue with the shedding. And I used that in my case, by the way. What I did is in my case here in Florida, what I'm arguing is that I was injured from shedding and I had triple bypass heart surgery from it. But what I'm saying is even if the court doesn't believe me on it, it doesn't matter because I'm invoking the Florida Civil Rights Act and I'm saying I have a right to public accommodation without fear of injury. And so, yes, and I'm using that in my case too.
You shouldn't be able to go into a restaurant and have somebody who's all vaxxed up serving your food, shedding on your food, shedding on you. You shouldn't. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I don't care what you got. You made a mistake of getting it. I shouldn't have to have it swathed all over me.
Well, look, we don't know how long it goes on for, but we do know, it could be indefinite or it could dissipate over time. But we do know closer to when you get the shot, the shedding is worse. So if you're going to continue giving people shots, you're going to continue to endanger people that don't get the shots. But again, even if people are willingly getting the shots, you're not telling them it's a weapon of mass destruction. There's no informed consent. And these meet the legal criteria of a biological weapon. In my case, basically what I argue, and I do it in a real simple way. I don't even get into the DARPA stuff or any of that. I basically argue that the shots cause harm, a whole bunch of diseases and conditions like we talked about, including death. There's a negative effectiveness to the shots, meaning the more shots you get, the more likely you are to get COVID. So not only does it not work, you're more likely to get sick. And another study just came out the other day or last week about that. I'm arguing about the shedding in there, and then I talk about the nanotechnology and the spike proteins. We know about the SV40 promoter that's in the nanoparticles, so that just didn't get there, and that causes cancer. I mean, I actually interviewed what's her name, Judith Berry Baker, a while back, and she was like 19 when she dated Lee Harvey Oswald, but she actually worked on the SV40 promoter, and that was a bioweapon part of back then. So these are weapons of mass destruction, and again. So if you look at the bioweapons law, basically it's talking about a chemical agent, biological agent, or a toxin, which could, a biological agent, a toxin, which could be a chemical agent, or a device. So it's all covered there, causing harm in mass. And so you have to have intent.
Wait. When you say device, that's what the biotech, that's what the tech is.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the law covers a biological agent, a chemical agent, and a device. So even if you're going with the nanotech, it's covering that. So, and harming people en masse, and you have to have intent. And what I argue in my case is that they knew, according to the Pfizer versus Kansas case, Kansas versus Pfizer case, they knew as early as December of 2020. The people that planned this knew what they were doing all along, but I'm just saying that your typical deep state bureaucrats, they knew in December of 2020 that these shots were harmful and caused death, because that's when they were doing that post-cumulative analysis from Pfizer, which was like from December 1st to February 28th, where it had like over 1,300 serious side effects and so on, like 42,000 adverse cases and like over 150,000 adverse incidents. So they knew that these were harmful and deadly that early on. And so when you know that and you're telling people it's safe and effective, that's clear intent.
Tell me about what's else going on in some of the other states. You had in Florida, you got some of the counties to do a resolution to stop giving the shots. And this all brings out negative publicity for anybody getting the shots.
Yeah, I worked on that actually starting in like May of 2021, but it took about 18 months to set up the context to be able to get the first resolution passed in my county, which declared the shots to be biological and technological weapons of mass destruction at my county party. So I got 10 county parties in Florida to pass that. and then counties in other states, and then eventually, like the Idaho Republican Party and the Arizona Republican parties passed that resolution, and it was calling for the governor, it declared them biological and technological weapons, but it called on the governor and the attorney general to act, and also the legislature, if they didn't do anything, and that's why when I was seeing these bills popping up, I'm like, wait a minute, you got to say it's a weapon, otherwise you're giving these people cover. I want to see justice. I want to see these people, the people that orchestrated this, some of these people need to go to jail. Some of these people need to be prosecuted, and it's just not okay to look the other way. You're like, why am I doing this? Because how can you not do this? How can you be a man and look the other way while they're killing our people like this?
You're just doing this on your. I mean, this is an amazing. I mean, it's just a great first interview. I got to tell you, I've been talking to you for a long time, and I've been embarrassed
Yeah,
in bookings.
Greg's been chasing me for about 2 years. Finally, I said, okay, I'll come on.
Well, listen, you're doing this on your own. You're not a part of a group. You're not part of a government agency. You're not. You're a guy. You're a PhD psychotherapist. You work a job. All this is you're paying for this out of your own pocket. I guess you get some donations or something, but you're paying for all this stuff out of your own pocket, right?
Yeah, I've been doing this. It's really the time because you have to research the case law and learn the procedures, and that's a little difficult. I mean, so if I win my appeal, then I'm going to have to go through a whole nother bit of a learning curve on how to learn how to do evidence and all that kind of stuff. But one step at a time. I realize what I'm up against with my court case, but like I'm saying, I do have a clear procedural issue that they did wrong. So I don't, it's possible the court could actually reverse and remand it on that and leave alone the other issues that are at play. Because in the court's decision, the court made a lot of errors. Like it said, I didn't meet the criteria for an injunction or a declaratory judgment, which I did. The court is actually saying that I can't force a prosecution, but there's nowhere in my case where I asked for a prosecution. I'm not suing for money either. I'm just suing to get the shots off the market. That's it. Not for money, not for, and I'm not asking for prosecutions in my case. So the decision was a little funky. And again, the case was dismissed before I actually got a summons from the clerk of the court, which is a clear procedural error.
I want to talk about this thing that's on your Substack. I'm going to put a link up for this for your, Joseph Sansone Substack. I'll put a link up for it. But here you got this, and you heard about it. Oh, it saved millions of lives. Oh, it made it less. Tell me the study that shows it made it less COVID less harmful. There's no study out there for that. That's total BS. Like the 6 feet distance and the masks and all the other crap and safe and effective. Lie. Ivermectin is bad for you. Oh, you OD on it. Hydroxychloroquine. Oh, don't take it. It's no good. Don't take that. No. Get turn blue and go to the hospital. They actually said that. Turn blue and go to the hospital. But here it says on your Substack, it said this study cited the U.S. Senate and elsewhere that debunked the claim that it saved millions of lives. I wish the president of the United States would stop saying we saved millions of lives. Did the president of the United States, did this CV19 shot save millions of lives?
No, obviously it's killed billions of people, and unfortunately, a lot more people are going to die into the future. Like Dr. Maravik Vila here in the Villages in Florida, which for people that don't know, that's like it's the biggest senior living community in the country, and she's treating over like 3,000 or 3,500 bioweapon injection victims in her clinic. And she's going to be publishing something in a couple months on this a research paper, but she'll tell you that most of the people have immune system failure, showing up in their blood work, even if they're asymptomatic, basically VADES. And so unfortunately, as that continues in the future, people are going to get different, whether it's going to be cancer or heart problems or, as your immune system fails, I'm not a medical doctor, but you don't have to be a medical doctor to know this. As your immune system starts weakening and failing, you're going to get other diseases and disorders. So unfortunately,
so wait, hold on just a minute. I'll come back to unfortunately just in a minute. So VADES is vaccine-induced autoimmune disease. So this
vaccine-acquired autoimmune disease.
Vaccine-acquired. So yeah, you didn't get sex because you didn't get AIDS because you had sex with somebody sick. You got VADES, vaccine-induced AIDS. The vaccine causes AIDS.
Yeah, it's basically immune system failure is what she's seeing on a majority of the people is what she's telling me. And I think, this is serious stuff. And again, it's like, I get it. I know what Secretary Kennedy is up against. I understand that, but to not recommend it for kids and pregnant women, I mean, these need to come off the market immediately. And President Trump, like, he doesn't really hesitate to do an executive order. He needs to do an executive order and enforce the U.S. bioweapons law. That's his job as president of the United States. Now, I get it. Kamala Harris would be worse. I get it. But I don't have Stockholm syndrome, and I don't have cognitive dissonance. I see what's happening to the people we know and love, and we have to stop this. We have to stop this.
You are a psychotherapist. I wanted to ask you this. I've never asked you this before. I'm sorry to spring this on you. But
yeah, it's good.
You are a psychotherapist, right?
Yeah.
So do you have people come into your office saying, I feel sick, I go to the doctor? Because Dr. Pierre Corey, who has a big vax injury clinic, says, I hear this all the time. People who are vaccine injured, they go to their doctor and they say, no, it's all in your head. No, you're cray-cray. No, you're nuts. No. Oh, no, there's something wrong with you. Are you hearing this in your practice? Are people coming in saying?
I don't hear that as much personally. Talking to Dr. Vila, that's why she's got thousands of people in her clinic, because she'll tell you straight up, doctors are gaslighting their patients, and they're flocking to her because she's actually treating them at a much higher level of care too. But I get people coming in with the ailments and stuff, but remember, they're coming to me on the mental side of things. So I always have to be careful because I'm not a medical doctor. I don't want to start jumping into that.
But so there are all kinds of mental problems that come. There's suicidal thoughts. There's anger issues. There's all kinds of things that came out. The people at there was a Courageous Discourse, which is now, I don't know, what is it? Yeah. Counterpoint, which is Dr. Peter.
Focal points now,
which is Dr. Peter McCullough's thing. They did a big study, 86 different markers for mental problems, which you're an expert on.
Yeah. There are studies that show that people with anxiety, depression, even some people with psychotic symptoms. But I want you to keep in mind that there's grief and loss. When people have a physical illness, there's grief and loss that's involved in that. So you're going to cycle through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and hopefully eventually accepting it. But as you have a chronic illness and your condition gets worse, you kind of cycle through it. It's like you get used to your new normal, and then you start getting worse, and you kind of cycle through those stages of grief and loss again. And so there's a lot of people walking around with grief and loss over their illnesses and stuff because they're not getting answers. And what the doctors tell me is, like, a lot of these conditions, they're behaving like paradoxically. It's not like what you'd see in your textbooks. The conditions aren't behaving like they would normally would, and there's a crossover on some of the conditions. So it's unfortunate. So there's just a lot of this is really sadistic what they've done. Sadism is arguably one of the worst human qualities. We all most people possess it, in a benign form, like your friend slips and falls on your snow, you kind of laugh, or you're busting your buddy's chops, that kind of thing. But, we're seeing the dark form of sadism here. They took pleasure in controlling us, humiliating us, forcing a face diaper on your face, causing pain. They didn't just kill people. They've created a thing that's going to cause a painful process for a lot of people, creating chronic illness. This is a sadistic, evil thing that has been done to our people and really the planet at large. And there must be justice. There must be justice. And we need to stop the shots immediately.
Man, this whole thing makes me feel sad. I didn't take the shots. I didn't get blood when I had my bypass surgery. And I told a room full of doctors, I said, this is very unscientific, fellas. And I quoted your guy, Francis Boyle, who said it's a bioweapon. I said, that's a pretty good source, isn't it? The guy that wrote the 1989 Bioweapons Act says it's a bioweapon. And this is not, he was a professor at the University of Illinois. He passed away recently, bless his heart. But he helped you out with that affidavit. And that affidavit ended up in your lawsuit. And even the Surgeon General of Florida, Latipo, called them Satan shots, called them evil shots.
Right. The Antichrist of medicines is what he actually said. The mRNA injections are the Antichrist of medicines. Yeah. Dr. Boyle, he actually endorsed my ban of jab resolution in April of 23 when I was in the hospital, myself getting triple bypass heart surgery. So I got him to endorse it while I was there. And then we got Santa Rosa passed the resolution too when I was there. I figured, and I got him on a podcast the same day I was getting operated on, like a pretty big podcast, because I figured it'd be a good parting shot. But I reached out to him later and asked him to do the affidavit, which I used in my first case, which was the mandamus, which Karen, Kingston did the literature review on that. And so he did he gave me the affidavit, and then I used it in my second case as well. So it's kind of funny in the decision that the court did to deny my motion for rehearing. The court basically cautioned me on filing frivolous lawsuits. And so what I did is, when I filed this new case, I got an email from Dr. Boyle after he read it saying it was a very fine piece of legal work, and glad to be part of it. So what I did is I took a screenshot of that and included that in my appellate brief, to show, this is not in any way a frivolous case. If the world's leading legal authority on biological weapons said it was a good piece of legal work. So,
wow,
you gotta have a little fun.
What do you need? You're going to keep fighting on, and you're going to come back and tell us what what you're hoping for is that the president and RFK Jr. will see this groundswell of, hey, y'all, you're wrong. You should pull the shots. What do you need? Do you need donations? Do you have a donation page? I know you have your Substack, which I'm going to link to it. You can have people subscribe. You only have 17,000 subscribers. That's unbelievable. You ought to have 170,000.
Actually, I just hit 18.
Oh, you just hit 18. Well, you ought to have 180,000 subscribers. Man, you're doing God's work.
Well, Greg, I got to tell you something.
Money. You're not suing for money.
I just got to tell you something.
No, go ahead, sorry, let me just say one thing. You're not suing for money. Oh, you're not suing for money? No, you don't want any money. You're not suing to put people in jail. You just want the shots taken off the market.
Yeah, wow. It's that simple. People can just subscribe to my Substack. The thing is let me explain the strategy a little bit. Is there's a cumulative effect. As one state introduces this bill, there's going to be a cumulative effect on another state. Look, I want it in every state by next year, but even if it's only in 20 or 25 states, and we can build the momentum, it can happen. Eventually, if we get in enough states, there's going to be a populist conservative state that's going to pass this bill. That can happen, or the governor or attorney general in that state's going to see the writing on a wall and just enforce the existing law. Or the federal government will just turn around and do it because they don't want us telling them what to do. Because the worst thing politicians want is for human beings, actual citizens, to tell them to do their job. So if they see momentum coming, the federal government might step in and pull the shots. But look, it's not enough to pull the COVID shots. This mRNA platform, it's a weapons platform. It needs to be stopped.
All of it.
Just needs to be stopped.
The mRNA, the bivalent flu shots, the shingle shot, the the pneumonia shot, all these bivalent, or all these shots with mRNA, the RSV shots, all these shots you're saying gone. Bye-bye.
My case, Greg, my case targets mRNA injections and products. And the bill does too.
Everything.
Yeah.
And public enemy number one are the CV19 shots, which I had Dr. Sherry Tenpenny on. She was, I can't believe these are still on the market.
It's crazy.
All right. It's Dr. Sansone. Appreciate you being on. I think this is great. That Substack, links to a Substack. Is there a donation page you have? Do you have anything that will?
There's a little link there if people want to donate. Yeah, on the top in the navigation bar.
In the navigation bar, top. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I see likes, post activity. I see sign in, create an account. I don't see a donation page.
You're looking at yours. If you're on my home, if you're on my home thing there, there's a home. It's there.
Well, you'll send me a link for that when we get off. Listen, I'm going to post that. So thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate you coming on. And what a fight, a one-man wrecking ball crew that not doing this for any money. You didn't tell me to promote your website, just so people know, or to get donations, but I think you need them. I mean, in order to carry on this fight, you have to have some money to keep going. You can't just do it out of your pocket. You've been doing this for a few years out of your pocket, which is fantastic. And thank you. You're getting good points up in heaven. Thank you, Dr. Sansone. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks again, Dr. Sansone. You really are doing fantastic work, and everybody should get behind you and support you and people like Karen Kingston and Dr. Sherry Tenpenny and Dr. Pierre Corey and Dr. Peter McCullough and everybody else, the heroes of, and I just mentioned a few, the heroes, Dr. Elizabeth Eads, the heroes of the anti-CV19 bioweapon Vax. That's unbelievable, Sherry Tenpenny. I can't believe this is still on the market. But anyway, I can't either. It's unbelievable. Wanted to tell you about my sponsors. Again, discount gold and silver trading. There's lots of money printing that's going to happen. I don't know about this big, beautiful bill, but there's going to be a lot of big, beautiful inflation and money printing, and it's going to make things, very dicey. 800-375-4188. All of my sponsors have phone numbers. These two are the same. Basically, they're subsidiaries of the satellite phone store, 855-980-5830. Lots of power outages with the spring storms, and these batteries are unbelievable. You have to have them. The batteries, you can plug into your wall and have them ready when your power gets knocked out. I mean, in Texas and other places, they've knocked out hundreds of thousands of people without power. Also, your satellite phones. Also, there's a new Starlink system that they're selling as well. Block all signals. That's the Faraday and ballistic bags. Again, 855-980-5830. There's clean water. You got to have it. This is the dry element people. Another phone number there. You can get on the phone and talk to them. Their filters fit Berkey, and I think they're some of the best in the business. I've demonstrated how I had crystal clear water and threw mud in it, and I drained it to a container through the filter, and I drank it. It's fantastic. 833-379-3536. You got to have clean water. You have to have clean air. That's Western Scientific air scrubbing technology, bipolar air scrubbing technology. Another phone number there. Last but not least, get life-saving meds now from the Wellness Company. You get 15% off and free shipping with the promo code USA Watchdog. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com. One other way you can support it is with just join up for my email blast I put out every time I have a new interview out, and right here at the top of the page, on every page, just hit join. Then it's also on the side of the page. You have my private messages, same thing. You have this is an AWeber product. So if you don't like being involved and you don't like having your email, an email sent to your email when I have a new post up, you can just simply hit unsubscribe. No questions asked. And I do not sell my list. Now, once in a while, I'll put out a special, offer. I haven't done that in over a year. So there you go. Thank you so much for that. And really, please just know I do this so you're not afraid, and you have knowledge. So you shouldn't get a flu shot or a shingles shot or a RSV shot or any of this crap. You shouldn't get any of it. It all has mRNA in it, according to all the doctors I talked to, including he's not a medical doctor, but Dr. Joe Sansone. He's got his bills and got his, basically pressing for all the mRNA platform, shots to be gone. Public enemy number one is the CV19 shot, which has mRNA in it. mRNA, evil, equals evil. And has caused a lot of problem and continuing to do so. So I want you to be informed. And that's why we do these things. So listen, Jesus said there be no flesh left if the days were not shortened. So for the sake of the elect, the days shall be shortened. I used to think it was a thermonuclear exchange. And now I think it's these stupid shots. This mRNA technology is sticking in our food. They're sticking in beef. They're going to have another pandemic. They have treaties. They're after us. They like everybody on the planet except for the few at the top to be killed. So don't let them. And just basically arm yourself with the armor of God. Just remember, prepare yourself mentally, physically, and above all, spiritually. God the Father, Jehovah, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit are all firmly in control. Thank you again for supporting USA Watchdog with your donations and your comments. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.